Hey, it's Jeff. Today, I got a question about the two bishops mate. Asking about the fourth puzzle, the king is always escaping. So that's the problem. Today we're going to try to solve that. So, what I'm going to do is we're just going to skip to the fourth puzzle and go to practice mode. And let me see, okay. And the main thing about not letting the king escape is you want to have the bishops like next to each other, because like imagine, let's see, if I just do this and that, just look at the squares that the bishop is covering. So right now the king cannot get to h1 or a1 at all. They're just stuck in this part of the board. So once you do that, you can move up with your king and then keep trying to get this pattern where the two bishops are next to each other and cutting the king off. Now usually I don't immediately go for putting two bishops here. You can actually just move your king up towards the center first and then worry about that. So that's what we're gonna try to illustrate. So I'm just trying to bring my king up to the center. If they let me, they don't. So now I'm just gonna bring up the bishops and then bring the king up. Here, I guess they could always go this way. But if I go here, if they were to go here, it would end up being the same type of situation, but then the bishops are connected this way, and you would bring the king up along this way. So here they're going towards the beginning, and already here I can't really move the king because they would take the bishop. So maybe I actually do have to, I move this bishop back, and then move this up, and keep these connected. So I'm cutting off all these squares. And now I think the key position that I usually want to get is this one. So with the two bishops here, if we draw our arrows again, we see that the king can only go to this square or somewhere along the back rank. So at this point, the king might be on e7 or f7. Either way, once you have the bishops connected here, then you just bring in the king, and eventually they'll be forced to the back rank. And so this is like the first key position. So from the beginning, you want to envision trying to get your bishops here and here, and then starting to bring up the king. And if they go onto the other side of the board, it's the same kind of situation. It's just, I mean, you could even just tilt your head if you needed to get the same kind of view. Basically, we just try to get the this kind of situation with the bishops like that. And now I'll just bring the king in. They're going to go to the back rank. And at this point, like when I'm pre-moving and doing the records, I would just automatically try to get my king to f6, because there's a good chance that they're just not going to be able to escape on this side of the board. And once the king is here, you're going to checkmate him in this corner at some point. So just from this point, like once you get this first key position, just always aiming to bring your king here has been good for me. And we kind of see that playing out. So if I go here, you see they went to this side of the board, but they actually can't go anywhere because we're cutting these off. And at this point, is very simple. So you want to bring this bishop up one so that they have to move this way. And every time that they give up squares, you just want to cover it by a bishop. So they just gave up this square, so we'll go here, force them to the right. They just gave up this square, so we'll just cover that with the bishop. And now here, we gotta be careful because they could try to escape there. So I just typically bring the king over, and then you can just bring the bishops and keep checking till checkmate. So that's pretty much what I do. So it's like a couple steps. You want to try to get the bishops here, and then bring the king up to f6. And then, so let's get that. So you want to get this first, and then bring the king up. I bring it to f6 usually, and then just cut off their squares. And if you can do that, then you can checkmate them. So let's try another one. This time they go to that side, and usually I restart when doing the records, but let's see if I just connect them like this, we might be able to set up the same type of situation. In which case, I think I'd be trying to bring the king here. Like before I was saying, I'd bring the king to f6. In this situation, like if I tilted my head to the left, I'd be trying to bring the king here. Although, if I go here, notice the bishop is cut off. So maybe that's not what I want to do. So at this point, because this would allow them to kind of escape, I could look into just moving this bishop here and then cutting off squares as they go along this way to checkmate them that way. So we'll see if that actually does work. So they just gave up this square, so I go the bishop there. And here, you want to be careful because they might try to escape that way. So I'll just bring the king up. And if they move back, then I can just check with the bishops. So they go this way. And here, I feel like moving with the bishop to cut them off is helpful. I'm kind of worried about if they go here, they might be escaping. So I'm actually going to go here. And then this, just so that the king can't go that way. And now, just doing a little bit of calculation, I can go here, and then when they go here, just go there, and then checkmate. So a lot of this is like you practice and you'll eventually be able to understand some of these situations. Here I had to kind of abandon the plan that I was kind of teaching you guys because I'm just not as familiar with checkmating them on this side of the board. But the same kind of principles do still remain, where you get the two bishops connected, then you can bring the king up, and you force them onto the back rank, and then you just work on cutting off squares and taking the squares that they give you. And then there's a couple of situations, like here I went for bishop e4. If I were to try to do this, they get that square, and it becomes a little bit more tricky in my mind. I don't know exactly what's going on. But I mean, I could always just go here, and then it turns into a similar situation where I have these two connected. So yeah, I don't know. But here I would go like, actually I do not know. Okay, this is it. So then you cut off squares like that, and then you check, and check, go this way. And I think this one would be stalemate, so you gotta move the bishop back once, and then here, and then checkmate. So yeah, so some of these are pretty tricky, but basically the lines I've shown you so far, even though some of them I made mistakes and didn't do the optimum move on, they pretty much cover like most of the situations you would run into. And a lot of times though, oops, not there. A lot of the times though, you get the one where, okay, this is the other one where they go on to the right. So this is where I usually get most of my records. I bring the king up in here. So like the f6 square is just shifted to f3 now instead. And then we get the same situation where they're just on this file. So we go here, and then we just take the squares that they give up. So they give up this square, so we move the bishop there, then block with the king, and then we can just bring the bishops like that. Yeah, hopefully this helped. Did a few different situations, checkmated them on most of the corners. And so yeah, just keep in mind this pattern where you cut them off, and keep in mind having them like, I guess on the 5th rank is pretty good, and then getting the king over, their king on the back rank, and then cutting off squares, and then that final checkmate. So yeah, hopefully this helped. See you in the next one.